In my time in Vietnam, I think one of the most dramatic things that happened was that dengue fever was present in the south all the time I was in Vietnam, but it was never in the north when I first arrived. And because of climate change and urbanization, goes together, dengue became endemic in Hanoi in the north of Vietnam in ways it was not when I first arrived. It completely changed. And I had a lot of scientific interest in dengue as well as clinical and public health. So to me, that was the one thing that brought it together. And actually, it then got repeated in Kathmandu, Jakarta, southern China, and now, of course, southern Europe and the United States. Portugal, yeah. I think climate is a health crisis. I mean, one of the problems I've had, because I come from the health world, not the climate world, although we must bridge them. But I think it's very difficult to persuade the community to change what it's doing today because of something that will happen decades later. It's very difficult to persuade a 15-year-old to not smoke when lung cancer will happen 30. So I think we've had to make the case that climate is not something that will happen in 2050 or the end of the century. It's now. It's you, it's your children, it's your family, it's your mother, it's your father, whoever it is. And I think we've got to reconnect it with today if we're going to make a difference. And then also, we cannot leave the climate crisis, and it is a crisis. It will be the defining feature of this century. We need to bring communities together scientifically that don't often work together. So cell biology, molecular biology, any form of discovery science, with the people that are making sure that we change our energy systems, or we make our houses more energy efficient and climate sensitive, or people working on pollution. These all have a basis in basic science, and we've got to understand the basic science if we're going to make changes in the years to come. The crucial thing is funders can be strategic, and they can say we want to work in this space, and that's very important. And when I was at Wellcome, we had a big focus on climate, infectious diseases, and mental health, because we wanted to push those communities. But you must also make sure with funding that you leave open the idiosyncratic, curiosity-driven science that doesn't have a strategic outcome. Because if we don't do the basic science, in years to come, we won't have these things called breakthroughs, which everybody thinks are created in a year and a rush. They're not. They're based on years of patient, painstaking work by scientists who aren't thinking where it will go in a decade's time, but are just curious about answering questions. And I think humanity is at its best when it just allows freedom, and it allows freedom to be curious and to see over the horizon. Firstly, I think science is about hope and optimism. We're not going to make the world a better place without science, also without culture and creative arts. It's not just science. But science has got a crucial role to play in that. It's got a crucial role to play in addressing the big issues: climate change, demographic shifts, pandemics, drug-resistant infections, where mosquitoes fly. Science has got a critical role to play in that. And it's inspiring. It's joyful. It's pushing the boundaries of what you know, and pushing yourself like an artist does with a blank canvas. What will come next? You don't necessarily know. And I think we cannot do that science without communicating that inspiration and joy and fun, because ultimately it's about inspiration and curiosity and hope. I think we as scientists can't complain about policymakers and politicians if we don't become and engage with them and become them as well. I would like it to think that just because you've got into science, it doesn't define you forever, and you can leave and go and make a contribution to the rest of society by going into being a teacher, by going into being a policymaker, into a diplomat, into a politician. We desperately need politicians that are scientifically literate, but we also need scientists that are policy literate. Otherwise, we'll never bridge this gap. I think science, because of its global reach and because of the way scientists, I think, they think naturally about public goods, global goods. And so I think it's a natural bedfellow to be that scientists are actually driving equitable solutions around the world. My worry is if we're not active in that, if we just assume it'll happen, then increasingly as science goes on in a fewer number of countries and not in other countries, it will inevitably, by doing nothing, by being passive, then we will have a more inequitable world. And we are not passive observers of history. We make history. And therefore, I think we've got to lean into this and make sure that science is a global enterprise. Countries are willing to work together in science because ultimately everybody will benefit. There's a network of the chief scientists of all of the UN agencies on this, but everybody can play a part in that. Every government can play a part in that, and every foundation, every philanthropy can play a part in that. And we as scientists can play a part in that by open science, by communicating our science, not just in our own language, but in multiple languages and multiple cultures. But also, I think it is absolutely critical, as Portugal has done, as I was talking to the president earlier, domestic investment in science is crucial. It cannot just rely on aid and charity and benevolence. Domestic gives you ownership, it gives you power to define your future. And then international funding can come in. So I think it is a combination, and I think enlightened governments around the world are now investing in science. South Africa, Brazil, Vietnam, Indonesia, Korea, Chile, Czech Republic, Ghana, Rwanda, South Africa. Countries are investing in their science because they can see it's a way of providing opportunities for jobs, for also improving health, but also science plays a huge role in economic growth. How can you be a country growing economically without some degree of a science base? Nobody's ever done that. You can't do it without some science base. The world is very dark at the moment. If people leave this meeting thinking of excitement, that actually they are at the start, and I think it is the start, that's why I think the meeting is ahead of its time. You're at the start of something and it's yours to forge. It's not yet formed. And don't be intimidated by that, but create it. And being at the start is much better than joining years later. It's much more enjoyable. So use this as the catalyst that says, in years' time, we'll look back at that meeting in Lisbon in April of 2025 as the moment when actually cell biology and the broader scientific space and the climate community came together to address common problems. That would be quite a good legacy.